Once he was free, him and Meta got back together. In 2014, Meta ended up just breaking up with him, and 11 days after doing so, she went missing. Meta's body was never found, and Reginald was never caught, but he's suspected to be somewhere in New York. Ugh, that's so sad. Imagine the last footage of you is, security. Imagine your kids. She was a mom. The last thing they could see is just like some pixels of her running away. That's horrible. That's horrible. But yeah, rest in peace, sir. Supposed alien abduction caught on film. In 1996, the TV show Paranormal Borderline had a submission that contained a VHS tape and a letter. The letter told the story of a worker who appeared to have been abducted by aliens. The footage shows 4 angles of different sections of the warehouse. The top right one is the one we'll be focusing on. We see a worker leave the gate at 11 p.m. and then boom, a flash of light knocks all the cameras out and only come back until 1 in the morning. Then we see the man crawl back, vomit, then leave the scene again. Apparently the man quit his job and moved away. Now, I know this one's most likely fake, and it's already extremely corny, but let's hear what a UFO researcher had to say about this same footage.
I work with many people that they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Something happened to them, externally happened to them, that they don't maybe quite remember, but they know they became ill. They know that, they came back and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and what happened? I just opened the gate and it was 11:15, and then next thing I remember, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm sick to my stomach.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching it all the way through. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. If you're new to the channel,
using a VPN. At first glance, the new report uses a lot of words to say a few important things. So let me save you the time in reading it. The agencies looked at 6 main areas: consumer and investor protection, promoting financial stability, countering illicit finance, U.S. leadership in the global financial system, financial inclusion, and responsible innovation. So what does it really mean? Essentially, the government wants to make crypto safer and more secure while leading the way in terms of innovation. Basically, let's regulate, but not too much. Which sounds great in theory, but what does that mean? A good level of regulation is completely subjective. Like, does the airport have a good level of security? I don't know, they have all kinds of machines that look secure, but that doesn't stop my edibles from getting through. The report says 16% of Americans have purchased digital assets, which is absolutely significant. But then they go on to say these assets pose, quote, meaningful risks to consumers in a market that's 2/3 smaller than it was just a year ago. They say sellers of tokens often mislead customers about expected future returns, and almost 25% of all coin offerings had disclosure issues. After reading this, I get the impression that they're playing catch up. And they know it. But frankly, that's how financial innovation always works. We had the bank panic of 1907, where nearly every bank collapsed, and afterwards the government was like, oh yeah, we should probably fix that. We had the Great Depression at the end of the Roaring '20s, and again afterwards the government was like, oh yeah, we should probably fix that too. This always happens. A new financial technology springs up. Early adopters and people offering that thing make a ton of money. Newbies get in, everything crashes, and the newbies get hurt. Then we get laws to protect everyone, for better or for worse. Crypto won't be any different, and it will take time. Back to the Great Depression, that started in 1929, but the Securities Act didn't happen until 1933, 4 years later. Now, if this is a battle between the government and crypto, the government absolutely lost round 1. However, to be honest, it's the government's job to lose round 1. But it's also their job not to overreact in round 2. We're in the most important turning point right now. Are they going to accept that crypto provides benefits alongside some risks, letting the technology have a fighting chance in round 2? Or are they headed back out to the parking lot grabbing their shotgun to end this fight once and for all? We need to know more about how they see the future. So let's read on. They mentioned 7 million unbanked Americans and 24 million who pay for non-bank services like money orders and check cashing. If you've ever used one of those services, you'll know it's a complete racket. Essentially what they're saying is 2% of the American population is unbanked, and crypto can can be extremely useful to a lot of Americans. This is especially true for people who work in the US and send money abroad. Crypto is by far the best way to do this. Like, it can be 50 times cheaper with crypto versus other methods. In fact, the Fed is actually planning on rolling out this service called FedNow. It will help with these kinds of payments, and they say, quote, digital assets could help facilitate faster payments and make financial services more accessible. They just need to make sure this doesn't lead to even more predatory practices. I interpret this as good news. They're establishing that crypto is useful, and it's very hard to ban something that you admit to being at least kind of good. However, that's only praise for technology, not for existing products. Just because the tech is good doesn't necessarily mean they like the idea of Ethereum or Bitcoin, which we'll get to in a minute, because first they have a lot to say about society. A whole lot of words about the environment, human rights, and democratic values. And, don't get me wrong, I love living on a planet that's not dead. I like not being locked up and forced to have one of the country's 15 approved haircuts. But the corporate speak really gets old. Sustainability, framework, strategic risks. I don't know, maybe it's me, but that kind of stuff just feels like they're checking PR boxes and they're not saying much. Like, talking like a human and being clear, I think, would go a long ways in these kinds of documents. It kind of gives you the sense that they're allowing themselves to just throw the kitchen sink at this if they want to. Like, the strategy seems to be say everything you possibly can say, and then you'll find the answer somewhere among all the text later on. Anyways, back to the doc. Something they mention that will almost certainly happen is give regulators more power to act. Specifically, the SEC and the CFTC. It seems like the most likely outcome here is we'll eventually get a specific crypto test. This test will determine whether a crypto is a security or a commodity. If it's a security, the coin would need to register with the SEC, similar to how stocks work, and there'd be a ton of paperwork and rules for those security type coins. If it's not found to be a security, then it will likely default as a commodity with slightly less rules and regulations. Bitcoin would fall under the commodity camp. Essentially, the more a crypto coin feels like direct ownership in a business, the more likely that coin is to be considered a security. I personally feel like this is kind of a necessary evil. As much as I don't like regulation for the sake of regulation, it would greatly decrease the odds of any various crypto being a total scam. The White House is saying stablecoins are one of crypto's biggest risks.
Attention. If you or a loved one used stablecoins or interacted with Do Kwon, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
I wish that were real. But going back to the report, it specifically mentions the collapse of Terra USD and the spillover effects of that. My impression is that stablecoins like Tether are firmly in their sights. Whether it's right or wrong, people have been pointing their fingers at stablecoins following recent disasters in the market, and I can see why. The name suggests or even promises stability and trust. So when a stablecoin loses value, people see a scam and a rug pull. Look at this guy, Steve. He found out about Terra USD and put his life savings in days before the whole thing collapsed. He lost over $300,000 in the blink of an eye. So it's easy to see why the government wants to protect people like Steve. I mean, heck, I was personally hit by it as well. And what all of this means is I smell a digital dollar in the air. Maybe I'm being overly suspicious here, but it looks to me like this whole report is set up to say, look at all these amazing benefits crypto could have, but man, these terrible problems keep stopping us from how wonderful this could be. If only there was a solution that could tie this all together neatly. Boom. A CBDC they control. This would bring us back to the good old days, before this whole Bitcoin thing shook everything up. So I went back and read the whole White House report again, and I just couldn't shake that digital dollar feeling. Now, I think CBDCs can be useful, and I've mentioned in other videos how they've helped people in places like the Bahamas, and it could be good as long as it doesn't strangle cryptos. So my question is, will these government blockchain bucks run alongside stablecoins, or will they be more like, here's your virtual freedom dollar, now stop using those other tokens? Because if that's the idea, I see a problem. How can the US become a leader in crypto technology if we only have a centrally controlled dollar, if there's no competition? I'm not even sure that's possible to enforce. Now, there is a passage here on stablecoins that really interested me. It says they will explore technical assistance to developing countries building out digital asset infrastructure and services, and the Department of Commerce will help cutting-edge U.S. financial technology and digital asset firms find a foothold in global markets for their products. So maybe Americans get their digital dollar, but American developers get to help other countries create their own version